I've gotten some food. People, don't work on an empty stomach, please. Honestly, take care of yourself. Drink, hydrate, very important. Don't forget it. It's cool to be in flow. It's cool to work on things. It's cool to enjoy things and work on things. Enjoy working on things. But all in all, please take care of yourself. What's going on, guys? My name is Terminus. It's the same day. I have the same shirt. By the way, I have multiple of that shirt. It's just a black shirt. I have my food, which I'm probably not gonna eat that much during reactions, but I had my fill a little bit. And we are continuing with Frieren episode 7. Yeah, last time on Frieren, I don't have to recap that much, but pretty easy. We encouraged the young boy to believe in himself, believe in his capabilities. We shared some first fearful experiences, and we faced the dragon. We gathered our resolve and found out that, hey, we were more powerful than we believed ourselves to be. We got encouraged. We got praised, very important. And we made our first experience slaying a monster all by ourselves, even. And now we are a party of 3 instead of 2. The party keeps growing. I don't think it's gonna be that much more, but we did see that one person in the intro. I mean, I already have the next episode up. We did see that one person in the intro. Well, excuse me for a second. I'm gonna just cut that out. But we did see that one person in the beginning of the intro with the green hair that kind of looks like a young hider, but is an elf. So I do think that this person might yet play a role and become part of the party. Maybe he looks young enough to be. The same goes for this knight person, the one in the white shining armor, but he also might be an antagonist the way we saw him coming towards us with a sword attack. And we do have some other tidbits here, the guard captain and whatever. They could be like contacts or people Frieren knows from the past, or people that are kind of familiar with Frieren via Frieren knowing their masters or their parents or whatever. So I do still expect them to show up somewhat. The next thing we're gonna face is probably that is a big question, right? I don't think there's been a lot of foreshadowing on what's gonna go on going forward now. The only thing we know is we're traveling further northwards. There is the big canyon coming, and I don't know if it's the Royal or Regal Canyon or something along those lines. And then we have the big castle, obviously, and after that Oriole. But this, like the stops in between are not quite as defined. We still go by that monster of the week kind of style of episodes. Although there has been an interruption in the last 2 episodes where we had a theme going on across both of them, which was the introduction of Stark and his establishment into our party of heroes, our new party of heroes. Because I do believe that is what's happening. We do also have like tidbits of rising tensions between nations and kind of little wars and conflicts going on. So we do see that there is still trouble in the world. I mean, we already saw that with Fern's parents being killed in some kind of conflict or another after the heroes party already vanquished the demon lord. But we do have these little breadcrumbs being put out that there's conflict going on, and there might be parties that become trouble later on down the line for us and for the party in general. But aside from that, we do not have a lot. So I would say we just go into the episode. I talked a little bit about it last time that I don't know if the ED is from the perspective of Himmel or if it's from the perspective of Frieren. I do believe it's more. I do lean more towards the Frieren idea because it is not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily follow that just because you say if I'll be born again, I do things differently that you're already dead. And I do think like the verse about staying in the present and whatever and paying more attention there is definitely something that applies to Frieren. It could of course also just be both of them, right? It could be like a duet with back and forth and that's being sung by one singer, though I would probably more expect it to be an actual duet if this is how it was thought, like this is how it was envisioned to be. But yeah, it could be both. But we do have our headphones on. There are no glasses. We don't put our glasses on, and I don't think nothing will be wrong. But let's get this party started, right? Everything is go. You do find, oh yeah, before we get started, you will find the picture-in-picture version down below in the description or in my comments. Please subscribe so you can see what kind of cool series I'm doing after Frieren. I have no idea yet. Okay, I have no idea yet. We're gonna figure this out. Maybe I'll make a poll with like a couple of things that I find interesting, and I'll just put a poll up on the Discord once it's established. It's probably gonna be that way in a few weeks. And then people can, I mean, check out the description. Maybe it's already established at this point. And then we find out what we're gonna do next. I'm sure there's like a ton of interesting series that I still have to watch, both classics and actual new one seasonals and whatever. But yeah, subscribe so you don't miss any videos. I'm also reacting to Made in Abyss right now, which is a very, very interesting series. In fact, I actually do like it even a bit more than Frieren, but I mean, not right. It's a great series. The soundtrack and the mystery and all the character. Check it out if you have the time. But other than that, let's get into the episode. We do our usual thing. Cut to the reaction, and I'll see you then. All right, let's get this started. 70. Let's go. I'm enjoying the music in this show. At least like the intro, outro, and the visuals are amazing. Again, it's a very fairy tale book in my... It kind of reminds me of how Shaft did Witches in Madoka Magica. Not exactly, but like with the element, like you're putting like different layers of paper on top of each other. Like it's some kind of art project. All right, we are back, and actually there's not a lot to talk about. The only thing I can think of at the moment, I'm always saying there's not a lot to talk about, proceeds to talk like 2 hours. I'm serious this time. There's not that much to talk about, at least. The only thing I would like to talk about is this very interesting concept that we seem to be following these breadcrumbs of the various things that Frieren keeps paying attention to. And that does include things like grimoires she's looking for, specific spells she's looking for, and stuff like that, right? And one of the primary things here is Flum, her old master, who she herself in the beginning of the episode says she thinks she's the only one who really remembers her at this point. And the only thing that gets passed down in history about Flum at this point is her legacy, what she achieved in life, which ties into humans wanting recognition beyond their life. We do see that later in Himmel when he when Frieren asks him why he's always wants why he's always okay with statues of himself being made, and he's like, I want to be remembered beyond my human lifespan. But yeah, we do start out with a little flashback scene of Frieren having another copy of her old master's tomb, well, copy, imitation. And she says, like, if everything you see are fakes, you start to question if the real one ever existed. And that is a very interesting concept, right? If all you see are, let's take, for example, Hollywood stars or famous people in general, if all you see is whatever media portrays them as, you begin to wonder, is there even, like, is anything of what I'm seeing even real? We do have that a lot in different series, such as Oshinoko, for example, which I've seen. I'm sorry I can't react to it. But yeah, how much of the person that you see on screen, how much of the person that you maybe even meet at a fan event is the real person, and how much of it is in the end just a representation of what you want it to be and what is presented to you as a performance. So the next thing we see, all right, this is an interesting line that I wanted to look up actually. Flum, the founder of humanity's magic, is like a fairy tale herself, right? So we do have Flum as the founder of magic, of humanity's magic. Humanity, mind you, apparently there have been other species, demons probably, which we have seen are very, very studious and inventive, especially 𝐏𝐢𝐏, when it came to inventing magic and forms of magic, and elves supposedly too. But yeah, we do see that Frieren kind of melancholically remarks that Flum is probably the only, like she is, not Flum, that Frieren is probably the only person who remembers Flum, how she looked and how she was. I also can't imagine how it has to be to remember so much lifetime. I wonder if it's similar to humans, that if you spend a lot of your time alive, that a lot of the things you did in the past, you just remember from a very episodic perspective, right? You have a matter, like you have you have a sense of memory that is just straight information, and you do have a sense of memory that is emotions, and then you have a sense of memory that is specific, very, very potent, very impressive events, right? This can be visual elements, this can have audio elements, right? But technically memory is just a reconstruction. You do remember what happened, where it happened, you do remember certain sensations you had, and you remember certain emotions you had, and from that you reconstruct what happened. So I do wonder how much Frieren actually remembers, because we are dealing with a fictional species here. It could be very different depending on how the author wants to put up the species and what he wants the species to represent. Which is also, I'm saying he, it could also be a she. I didn't look up the author. Would be something to maybe look up next time. But at the same time, we come back to this concept later with the demons, which is the second interesting point I want to talk about. But first we focus on this here. We do see this shot, and we do see this very, very clear indication. We're not showing Himmel's face here, and that is a very, especially in animation, it's a very clear indicator that we want to hide what the person is feeling at the moment, but we want to hint at the fact that our focus of attention, well, it's not, they're not in focus, but the focus of attention should be on a person that is passively perceiving a moment. In this case, Frieren just expressed her more or less sadness, right? She's not very expressive, but Himmel can pick up on that very well. She expressed her sadness about being the only one to remember Flamm. So she is our focus in this specific shot, but in the background of that shot, we are supposed to pay attention to the fact that somebody is passively, that's why he is in the background, perceiving this moment and taking it in, but at the same time, clearly showing the way Himmel perceives this moment in too detailed a manner would be too on the nose, so we just hint at that. But yeah, this comes up later again when we do look back or we do look at the big festival, which there's festivals all around town. Like I said, we're following in the footstep of Himmel and the heroes party going on their journey, on their victorious journey for the Demon King castle during a very tumultuous time where a lot of people were suffering, and every town that got relieved of a big bad, every town remembers those heroes and celebrates them, has statues of them, and holds festivals, in this case the Liberation Festival. And we do go back into Frieren's memory and do remember with a little comedic scene where we see once again that, well, Himmel is a little bit particular about how he's being displayed and how pretty he is and whatever, but he kind of uses that in a very charming way, and he does have that charisma to pull it through, to be like, look how pretty I am, they have to get it right, and just throw that out as a conversational piece, a little quip, a little bit of back and forth, that a little ping to another person, right? Pinging them back and being like, hey, I want a response from you. I want more than what I just gotten. Yeah, here we have it. You're always getting statues made, Himmel. And Himmel's like, yeah, well, I want everybody remember us, right? And everybody looks at him, and then he's trying to slightly play off the fact that they don't live as long. He's like, well, we don't live as long as you. But a second later, he's like, well, I need future generations to remember how handsome I am. Obviously, Frieren ignores that because she doesn't quite know how to deal with it. But at the same time, she's too used to it from Himmel. And Himmel's strategy of throwing it off and not making the moment awkward or sad by looking upon the fact that he and his comrades, his other humans, do have such a very tiny lifespan. He throws out this little, oh, I'm so vain, I right? And Frieren takes that and is like, all right, whatever, you're being your usual weird cocky self again. Let me just step out. But that was the intention, right? In this little movement to put away that awkwardness, to put away that. But yeah, that is what he's trying to do, to throw Frieren and the others off and kind of shove away this awkwardness, this sadness that could come creeping into the situation if he lets that thought stand, if he lets that thought rest in the room and kind of I don't want to say fumigate, right? Spread in the mindset of everybody else. And then once Frieren takes off and she's almost about to go, and he doesn't face her, that's a very important thing, right? He waits till she turns around and doesn't look at him anymore, until he can start being very frank with it and being like, I'm doing this for you as well, right? So you won't be alone in the future, so you won't forget. And obviously she turns around then because he pinged her just now. And he kind of, right, and she doesn't quite understand it. He's like, we're not fairy tales, we really existed. And he's in his mind, he's thinking back to that moment where she was like, I'm the only one who remembers Flum. And to everybody else, she almost seems like a fairy tale. It's almost as if she never existed. And that is a very interesting thing to think about in the perspective of that, right? The people we meet. I mean, it's also something not a lot of us can really connect to, because you rarely meet a legend in that way. And then in the city we go to, I don't even know if we have a name for the city. Let me just scroll through it for a second. Do we have a name for this here city? It's 1.5 speed. Yes, we do have. It's Graf Granat's domain, or Graf Granat's domain, which doesn't say a lot, but apparently it's a domain of a what even means Graf in English? Of kind of like of a count, the domain of a count, which is the one we do see later with the brown hair here. And Frieren immediately goes to attack, and we're like, what's happening, Frieren? And I mean, I know there's a demon, but do you not want to talk first or ask questions? Like, for us, it's obvious, right? Talk to me. Also very funny, Lord Lügner, which translated means Lord Liar. Later we do get the full confirmation of everything Frieren says and speaks from experience is supposedly true, at least. If we want to believe whatever the demons have been talking about amongst each other without anybody in the room. Yeah, Frieren gets herself arrested. Well, cross that check mark off the list of things Frieren did. And she's telling them a little bit about what demons actually are. And she says they're monsters, and they evolved from the original monsters that could kind of imitate human speech. And that's what Flum later dubbed demons. So demons aren't demons in that sense as we might understand them from a classical fantasy point of view. But they're demons in the sense of monsters that you later called demons, deceivers, right? The classic, almost satanic Lucifer, if you want, the devil who's whispering in your ear and tempting you. But it's more complicated than that, right? Because at least supposedly, demons do not understand emotions, or at least don't have emotions. That is how it is displayed here. We do see a very flat affect here, very flat empathy by this demon, and he imitates this cry for help of a human child. Help, mom, it hurts. And later on, we do get the confirmation that the reason the child said that was that in the past it did save their life if they did so. And that is very interesting, the idea of how a species or a being evolves by uttering random sounds, doing random actions, and one of these actions, or some of these actions, are very effective in ensuring their survival. And once they survive, they find a mate, they reproduce, right? And this ability is being taught from generation to generation because it has been effective and functional. So this is social education as a function of evolution, in a way. Yeah, and demons seem to be either incapable or unwilling to care about emotions because they understand how emotions work. Though I'm not quite sure on how much of that we are supposed to believe. Because, well, first of all, again, we do have that way of a monster dissolving, so I do wonder if that is what differentiates like humans, elves, and dwarves as a normal humanoid species from monsters like dragons and demons, that they dissolve and the others don't. Because we did see when Himmel died, he was buried and his corpse was lying there. Although this might just be the matter of how you die. If you die a peaceful death, your corpse might stay behind, and if you die by the sword, you might evaporate. It might also just be a cool effect, but I do think there should be thought behind this specific artistic choice. But yeah, Frieren talks from experience, and we do have the confirmation here by Lord Lugner that all he wants to do is deceive the humans and get them to lower their defenses so they can invade. So I do wonder how much of what we believe demons to be right now at this point out of the mouth of Frieren is actually true. Because so far we have not seen demons express any emotion, which is very distinctive and important. We do see snarkiness here, but that snark to me seems very much like a facade, like a mask being put on, right? You're being somewhat amicable in your expressions, right? Soft expressions. You learn to imitate how humans express themselves with words and how they express themselves with memes. Not those kind of memes, but yeah, memes. And you do imitate that in order to manipulate them into trusting you. The same about emotional facts, right? But later on, one of the demons asks, what is a father? And he's like, well, I don't know. Though I do think he knows what the concept of a father is. He just doesn't know what the concept of a father is or means for people emotionally. But I would think that, especially for manipulating people, you would need to know these things. So there's a very important thing, like a very important line, where we have to kind of narrow down in which capacity demons feel or understand emotions. And then we have to kind of put them into a certain category, because they could be on, like, you could try to see them as a metaphor for people with psychopathic tendencies, people with lack of emotion, and people like that exist. They're generally, I mean, there's no generally, okay? There's no generally. I don't want to say anything that is actually not proven or confirmed or supported by research, but it has been said in the past that these people are prone to manipulating their environment. It has also been said in the past that not every case is the same, right? There might be people who feel a certain amount of emotions, especially emotions like fear or emotions like anger, because especially the former is very, very important to our own survival. And yeah, fear and anger are some of the base emotions, the oldest emotions in the development history of our brain. Also, they must recreate, right? Reproduce, right? So there stands to argument that carnal desire might be another desire that demons actually could have. And even the child in the story says it wants to be left in peace. Its logic is terribly flawed with the like, here, I give you a replacement daughter, but it's the mayor's daughter, but the mayor's not there anymore, right? That's horrible logic that shows that there's no understanding of emotions here at all, but also it wants to be left in peace. That is a desire that it utters seemingly honestly. So there's an argument to be made that it has motivations and desires, and most of the motivations and desires that we humans have come from our emotions, right? I mean, obviously, survival, the desire for survival, even that is transmitted via fear, because believe it or not, emotions are not a hindrance to us humans as a species. Emotions are the reason we evolved as far as we did. Well, not the reason, but one of the reasons we evolved as far as we did, because emotions are very informative. Emotions show us when we're in a dangerous situation. Emotions show us when there might be a potential partner, a potential mate. Emotions do show us when, when we face obstacles in our path that prevent us from doing the things we want to do, and emotions inform our goals, our beliefs, our interpersonal relationships. So there's a lot that emotions do for us human beings that are very logical, very functional. Otherwise they wouldn't exist in us, right? Otherwise we wouldn't be a species that has developed as far as it has developed, that spread as far as it spread, if emotions were just a hindrance or some kind of weird flaw. So yeah, we're not the QBs of this world who are saying emotions are just a genetic disease or a genetic failure or whatever the sentence was. That was one of the sentences of all time. But yeah, it remains to be seen how the demons will plot on. Now, obviously, Frieren says she's stronger than Aura. I expected that one, but it was a nice back and forth. It's like, oh, you think you're stronger than me? And she's like, no, I'm not saying I'm stronger than you. I'm saying I'm stronger than your boss. It's kind of like a badass thing to say. But yeah, I think that's about it. I talked enough as it is, and it's probably been long enough, even with all the cuts in between and whatnot. And I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, I gotta say. Even like the last two episodes, because they're more going in, they're going more into like the nitty gritty of the world and how it presents itself. But it's also very, very informative in many areas when it comes to further characterizing our main characters. Last episode with Stark and Fern, and even a little bit with Frieren. This episode we do have the little callback to Frieren again, which is kind of framing in the episode. In the beginning we do have that flashback, and later on we do have that coming back to that, right, with the Liberation Festival and all of that. And then we move from elves having less emotions, being less passionate, being less romantic, into what if there's a species that barely has any emotions or doesn't have any emotions? What if there's a species that doesn't have their ancestry within the same branch as elves or humans or dwarves, but rather within the same branch as monsters? And then we get into the nitty gritty of can this species evolve as well? Is there maybe part of the species that is not as emotionless, as heartless, as cold, as devious as we make them out to be? we raised that question to this episode, but immediately shut it down with the perspective of Frieren, which is the main perspective we are following. So yeah, it remains to be seen what becomes of it. Especially things are moving more now. Things are moving along more. There's a war going on, well, a tiny war, but a war with one of the 7 generals of the Demon Lord being not resurrected, but getting back to power. Kind of reminds me of the whole Morgoth Sauron thing, but not entirely. Sauron actually took over, I think, right? Don't remember the Silmarillion lore, but you know, like vague things I have in my mind. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I can't wait to see what next episode has in store. But until then, I do hope you did enjoy this episode and you did enjoy my ramblings, my wild ramblings, because once again, today is not my day, but I thought, fuck it, we ball. I'll do it anyway. Please subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications if you don't want to miss any videos of mine. I do have a Patreon. If you want to give me some support, feel free to do so. At the moment, just go for the $1 tier if you can. I don't know if at the point when this video is going to go up, it's probably going to be a week or two. I do actually already have early access. I probably don't. Other than that, like the video, comment below. Maybe I missed something. Maybe I talked too long about something irrelevant and you want to point out this cool thing, this cool animation, or the cool tidbit that is right that I missed. If something is coming up later, like foreshadowing, just mention it the next episode. Be like, okay, this thing that you saw this episode, it was actually foreshadowed 2 episodes back. That's a cool thing to do, right? But I do occasionally look into these episodes again. I notice things that I haven't noticed before. But yeah, I hope all of you have a nice day or night, and I'll see you next time.